Former President Trump saying for the first time exclusively to Jesse Watters Primetime that no one warned him not to take the stage, even though they knew there was a threat. And it was this guy almost an hour beforehand. The Secret Service under mounting pressure following the assassination attempt of former President Trump on Saturday. 1 week later, we still have very few answers about the shooter, the motive, and the stunning security lapses. Something we have learned, 20-year-old Thomas Crooks likely flew a drone over the fairgrounds in Butler, Pennsylvania, just hours before Trump took the stage in front of tens of thousands of people. Officials say the predetermined path suggests Crooks flew the drone more than once to scope out the event site. At least 4 congressional committees are planning to probe the security failures that allowed him to gain access to the nearby rooftop that he fired from. Republican Senator Josh Hawley says he's heard from multiple whistleblowers.
The idea that you could have all of this time elapse and nobody notices, no law enforcement notices he's on the roof. Whistleblowers tell me that law enforcement were actually on different channels, different radio communication channels. There were multiple different channels and they weren't coordinated.
We need answers. The director of the Secret Service, Kim Cheatle, expected to face tough questions when she testifies before the House Oversight Committee on Monday. Joining us now, Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan, and he's on the House Oversight Committee, and Iraq War veteran Congressman Cory Mills. Welcome, guys. Appreciate you being on. Congressman Mills, I got to think about you with your war background. You know this guy's suspicious. You keep him under surveillance for an hour, and then without a ladder, just getting on the air conditioner, he hit a gun earlier, it seems. He gets on top of the roof and starts firing as soon as he gets discovered and hits Trump in the ear, kills and wounds 2 others. From what you know a week later, what have you concluded?
Well, look, Brian, the bottom line is that we need to do a full J13 commission where we investigate not only to pull the advance plan and where they set the perimeter lines, but what was the security plan? Why wasn't there a central emergency communications channel for every single one of the law enforcement officers there, from local to coordinated agencies to the Secret Service themselves? Why didn't we have someone pre-stationed on that roof knowing that it's 160 yards completely adjacent to the stage with a clear line of sight? This is a sniper's paradise. This is something that we never would have allowed to have gone within our perimeters. And I've done so many of these advances and so many of these different counter sniper operations where I've set up and I do a range fan as well as for a sniper sketch in my data log book that'll tell you exactly where I would be focused and where I would look at. Right. I want to request that log book. I want to request the counter snipers team's perimeter layouts, their range fans. And I think that while Biden can't tell the difference between Cheatle and Cheetos, she needs to come on, she needs to resign, but we need a full investigation to determine whether or not this was negligence, dereliction of duty, or if there was intent. We can't pull anything off the table at this time.
Congressman, Congressman Jim Jordan, what is happening on Monday? What is going to be your first question, your game plan?
Well, I think there are two big areas. There's a before. Why was President Trump denied additional security that he requested? Even the Washington Post is now reporting that.
This is new.
Did in fact,
by the way, we should say that's new.
That's new. Yeah, Carol Leonnig, I think, is reporting that just as of an hour ago, that he was repeated requests for additional help, and he was denied that. We've also had whistleblowers tell our committee that there were resources diverted to NATO and to Dr. Jill Biden, the First Lady, because she was also in the Pittsburgh area. Did that really happen? And then, of course, what Cory was talking about, and you were talking about, there's a finite number of buildings that needed to be secured, that where you had line of sight to the president. Why wasn't that done? So there's the before stuff, right, and then there's the critical during. This shooter is identified at 6:09. 6:10, the counter snipers are noticed about the shooter, and 6:11, President Trump is shot. That critical 2 minutes, what all happened? And this idea that there wasn't a seamless communication system, did that have something to do with the 2 minutes between the time he was notified and when the shot was taken at the president and the president was hit? So I think the before, a lot of questions about that, but also some critical questions during those critical 2 minutes when it all went down.
I just don't understand why the Secret Service can get away with not briefing America, let alone you guys, on a regular basis. It should have been every single day. This is what we've learned. Instead, conspiracy theories take root.
Yeah.
I just want you guys to look at this together. I don't know if you have a monitor there. This is the timeline. 5:10, Crooks first identified as a person of interest. 5:30, Crooks spotted with a rangefinder, usually used for golf. 5:52, Crooks spotted on roof by Secret Service. 6:02, Trump takes the stage. 6:11, officers confront the gunman, and then he quickly gets out of the way. Crooks fires the first shots. Cory, this could have been so much worse. It turns out he had three other magazines with him, and he had a remote to detonate explosives possibly in his car. Your thoughts?
Well, look, I think that Jim's right. One of the things, if we go back to the beginning, is that what 20-year-old has no social media presence? What about these 3 encrypted accounts that he has overseas? What is the motive and who is driving him? We know the Secret Service and others have said that the Iranians had a plot against the president, which we knew about. We know that there's others who are trying to assassinate the president in an increased threat platform. This should not have been about resources. This should have been about proper planning and guaranteeing the safety of our president. And so I think that there's so much stop not only the conspiracy theory of this, but we found that in the Republican Party, a conspiracy and a fact takes about 6 weeks in the difference. But we need to get to the bottom of how this didn't come together in a more seamless manner to keep the nomination. Look, they have tried to go ahead and silence and suppress the president. They have tried to indict and imprison the president. Now they have tried to kill the president. We need to ensure that we get answers for the American people. And I don't want this behind closed doors. This has to be transparent. This has to be accessible. This has to be accountable for the American people.
Congressman Jim Jordan, we also know that the Trump team has been saying we need more resources. The Secret Service around them is exhausted. They got Melania and the president are in different places a lot. Barron is now in a different place quite often. They have other kids, other targets, and it's just been on deaf ears. Did you realize how desperate the situation was?
I don't think anyone did, but obviously the people around the president did, and that's why they asked for additional resources. And according, again, to even the Washington Post, they were denied those resources that were needed to protect the president. So this is, I think, an important line of questioning that will happen at Monday's hearing with Director Cheatle. Wednesday's hearing, we have Director Wray in front of the Judiciary Committee. I think we'll have all kinds of questions there as well. And then we want to get an update on what's happening because the FBI is now the lead agency in investigating what took place here.
So, Congressman Mills, this should be bipartisan. Do you know who's also on that list? President Biden. Looks like A.G. Garland was on that list. This should not be a partisan situation. Have you gotten any calls of concern from your Democratic colleagues?
Well, I've not, and you're right. This is not a bipartisan or a partisan thing, but should be a bipartisan American issue. And I think that there are enough Democrats who do share the same concerns because this is not just about what happened to President Trump, but what could happen to any elected officials. Many of us, and Jim can tell you this, come under different types of threats, or we get death threats in district or other places. So we need to be able to understand what is necessary to keep people safe. We need to also go ahead and understand that the dangerous rhetoric that continues to ramp this up, where people like President Biden has said, it's time to put Trump in the bullseye. This is the type of thing that incites these types of violence. They were so quick to talk about President Trump with regards to J6 incitement. Where's everyone else on the ideas of the J13 incitement? I think that we need to start looking at this in a bipartisan way to try and ensure that we have the security, the resources, the know-how, and that we get away from DEI, which equals DIE, and start getting back to meritocracy and what is best to help the security of elected officials and our president.
Congressman, are you worried, Jordan, are you worried that there are going to be so many investigations, nothing's going to get done? Do you sense there's got to be some coordination and streamlining?
The speaker's announced that he will form a task force in a bipartisan way to look at this issue. So I think that's helpful. We got to do our job. We have an oversight responsibility. We're going to do that. We starts on Monday in the Oversight Committee with Director Cheatle there to answer some of these questions. Wednesday with Director Wray in front of the Judiciary Committee, where I'm sure he'll get a lot of questions about this subject as well. Again, I go back to, Brian, that critical 2 minutes from the time the shooter is identified, 2 minutes later, President Trump is shot. What took place in those 2 minutes? And this idea that Senator Hawley talked about that we've also heard about, the idea that there wasn't this seamless communication. They were on different channels and it was tougher to communicate and everyone to know what was going on. If that was the case, why in the world would you set it up that way? That makes no sense to me as a layman. I don't think it makes sense to people who do security like Cory and others who've been involved with that. There should be one communications channel so that you're up to speed in as quick a time as you can be to deal with situations just like this. So there's the during issue that I think is critical, but maybe the most important is what they didn't do beforehand to secure this place and to give the president more security protection like he'd been asking for repeatedly over the last several months.
Okay, I understand the Secret Service did just respond. You want to tell me what they just said, Desiree? Go ahead. I don't have my phone with me. Right. They essentially said in some instances they did modify the protection, and they're just kind of nuancing their way out of this. We'll give you the full statement in a little while, but it was nothing earth-shattering. All right,
Well,
go ahead.
Well, that's a change from what they said just a few days ago. So they have now changed their story. A few days ago, they said that was not the case, that they did not deny President Trump additional security. Now they're changing their story. That's not a good sign.
Yeah. Oh, we'll put it in the prime. We'll read the whole thing, but it's not a good sign. But Mayorkas berating Congressman Waltz. He owes Congressman Waltz an apology. Cory Mills, Jim Jordan, Congressman, thanks so much. We look forward to seeing what you can uncover this week. Meanwhile, do not miss Jesse Waters' full interview with President Trump and his Vice President, J.D. Vance, Monday, 8 o'clock, only on Fox News.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.